This is the time my mom faked her death so she didn't have to take care of me and my siblings. Yes, this girl really faked her death. So at the time, I was 5 and my little brother was 3. It started off with my mom saying that she didn't feel well and she couldn't pick me up from school, so the bus would have to take me home. Well, a few months after, she started getting picked up from our house by this black car. She said that car was picking her up because of her so-called doctor's appointments. And she wasn't able to drive herself because she was too sick. Well, one day, when this car came to pick her up, she never came home. Me and my little brother were sitting around for a couple days waiting for her to come home, but she never came home, and we were young, so we didn't do anything. Eventually, my aunt came over to our house and told my little brother and I that our mom had passed away, and that she was cremated and they kept the ashes. So our aunt started taking care of us. Until one day, I saw my aunt getting picked up by that same black car. That's when I started to get suspicious of everything, and I decided to check these ashes. When I checked, it was flour. So one day when my aunt got picked up by this black car, I decided to follow her. I didn't have a car. I was 5 years old, so I had to follow them by walking and hiding behind bushes. I was able to follow them up the street, and once they turned the corner, and there I saw my mom standing on the side of the street. That's when I see the car stop and I see my aunt get out and approach my mother. She tells my mom to give her money for covering for her and taking care of me and my little brother. My mom says she faked her death because my dad wasn't in our lives and she didn't want to take care of us anymore. I'm older now and I cut her off completely and I have full custody of my little brother.
I found out my dad was a zoophile. For those of you that don't know what a zoophile is basically someone who has sexual attraction to animals. Okay, back to the story time. My name is Layla and I'm about 15 years old. Growing up, I had a pretty good relationship with my father. My mom had died when I was about 5 years old, so it's just been me and him ever since. For whatever reason, my dad just loved to bring animals around. But for whatever reason, they would die very, very quickly. And he would never let me see them before they died, which I found weird. So one day, I had gotten this new dog, Chloe. My dad absolutely loved Chloe and would kiss her all the time. And he would always cuddle her to sleep. He would get upset that I would take her and cuddle her to sleep when it was my dog, but we took turns to solve this. So I kind of noticed that Chloe was acting very funny. She was licking her behind a lot more than usual. And I don't know, I watched her all the time when I was outside. I talked to my friend about it and they made a joke saying if my dad was doing stuff to my dog. I got defensive because my dad would never do anything like that, but I took their words into consideration. And then I set up cameras. I felt bad for recording him, I'm not gonna lie, but I just needed to see. So I left for school and then he said goodbye as usual and he took my dog, of course. And I ended up coming back home, and when he went to work, surprisingly he was working a night shift that day, I ended up taking all the camera footage and examining it on my laptop. So he was just cuddling and giving my dog little kisses as usual. Then I kid you not, he started touching his area. And then next thing you know, it looked like he was about to do something to my dog, so I just quickly shut the video off. I didn't want to see him doing stuff to the dog. I didn't want Chloe to be in pain any longer, so I had no choice but to give her away. So I ended up giving her to the animal shelter, and my dad literally scolded me, but I didn't really care at this point. Then he ended up buying a dog that looked the exact same way, and acted the exact same way with it, and I'm not really sure what to do at this point. I love my dad and all, but should I report him to the police? If not the police, is there anything I could do about it?
Story time about how my mom kicked me out of the house for having a white boyfriend. I, 18 female, got with my boyfriend Jace, 19 male, after we met at the mall. We instantly just clicked. We would make plans to see each other almost every day, but we had to do it behind my mom's back. After about a month of us sneaking around, I finally asked my mom if I could go over to his house. I let her know that his entire family would be there. She agreed but stated that she wanted to meet him and his parents first. I'd always been that way, always helicoptering over me and controlling my life. Now, here's something important to know. I am black and my boyfriend is white, and to be blunt, my mom absolutely hates it. So I told her she couldn't. When he arrived, you could see the look of disappointment all over her face. I tried to play it off saying, "Oh, you're Jace." She looked disgusted, and watching the two interact felt like I was watching an episode of SVU. It made me livid and anxious because I could tell he was getting uncomfortable. The moment he left, she bombarded me. She said, "Why don't you find someone your own color, not mixed with others? Do you want to embarrass me?" It was, "He doesn't really like you. Nobody on that side does. He's only going to degrade you. It'll never change." I told her I'm an adult and I can be with whoever makes me happy. Months went by of constant criticism, but I tried to ignore it. One day I let my mom know that I'd be coming home late because I was going to a party, and she asked if that boy was going to be there. I said yes, and she said, "Leave your keys, pack your things, and leave." I did, but I asked her why, and she said that because I was starting to act like their people. When I told Jace what happened, his family let me into their home with open arms. After 9 months of living with Jace, my mom reached out. She explained how she needed me to move back in to help her with bills. She said she'd finally be accepting of me and my relationship, and I said no. I'm torn. Something that she also doesn't know is that we're expecting.
I went to school with two girls that ended up being murderers. Hi, my name is Bianca and I'm 20 years old. I'm currently a freshman in college and I major in social marketing. So I always remember these two girls being loved by everyone. Their names were Brianna and Amaya. They were the most two popular girls in the entire school. But I remember Brianna having this really obsessive crush with this guy named Ethan. She would always try to get his attention. It was to the point where she would dress differently for him to get his attention even more. People started making jokes of him being scared of her, but no one actually believed him. After that, they started bullying him, Brianna and Amaya, and then everyone trailed along. They left trash at his locker, spoiled food, etc. No one knew it was Brittany and Amaya that started this, but I did because I watched it happen. So one day, Ethan didn't come to school, and then it turned into a week, and then months. And soon, posters around with his face said missing. Reward if found. So this is where I came in. I confronted Maya and Brianna about where Ethan was and they said they had no idea. And in fact, they lied. The next day on Snapchat, they accidentally ended up posting on their stories Ethan's lifeless body on their Snapchat story, and they were literally laughing at it and saying stuff like, oh, well, he should have dated me, and oh, he should have never rejected Brianna, which I found absolutely disgusting. They ended up being arrested and charged for murder. It was so bad to the point where Ethan's body was punctured nearly 20 times. And he texted his mom that he was scared before that, which is even more sad. I feel really bad for Ethan. They only got 20 years of life in prison. Do you think these girls deserve more, or is it the perfect amount?
Am I the asshole for ruining my 5-year-old stepdaughter's funeral because she ruined my wedding? So for a little backstory, I, 30 female, finally married the love of my life for 35 male. From the moment that I saw him with his wife, I was like, no, I need to have this man. So he has this little bitch of a daughter. He had one. And she was 5 years old or whatever. So imagine, I got married to him and then it was our wedding and it was all cute and stuff. I was the star of the show as usual. I look so fucking bad. I look so thick in my wedding dress, okay? Anyways. So I'm in the middle of my vows and he's in the middle of calling me beautiful and I hear choking noises. And I was like, rude. Choke somewhere else. You can choke outside. What the hell? Don't be rude. And I look over and this little bitch is just choking and everybody's paying attention to her and I'm like, hey, I'm literally the fucking bride. Excuse me? No, take her outside and she can die out there because she's not dying on my wedding day. And this little bitch, she died on my wedding day. Are you fucking rude? I'm glad you did die, but die another day. Maybe you could have died the day after or something when I was in Peru. Anyways, yeah, so at her funeral, I was like, let me just ruin her funeral because she wanted to ruin my wedding by dying. And as I walked up to the casket, I just smacked her one good time, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, why would he do that? And I was like, why the fuck wouldn't I? And then as she was supposed to get buried, I dragged her body out of the casket and hid it in the washroom, and I went into the casket and I got buried instead of her. Ha, bitch. You thought you were gonna get buried? No, bitch, I did.